Folks, welcome to another episode of the Shadows Podcast. This is our special Rebound series. This is our second year of doing this, and I couldn't think of a better guest than the one we have here today. Kyle Guy from University of Virginia. I'm going to read off some of his accolades, and then we'll welcome him to the show. He was Mr. Basketball State of Indiana 2016. He's a McDonald's All-American. For all of you non-sports fans, that means he was like one of the best high school players in the entire country. He was a two-time first-team All-ACC, two-time third-team All-American. He was an ACC tournament MVP, Final Four most outstanding player. Adds a lot of credibility to our show right there with that. And then he was also a national champion with University of Virginia, drafted second round 2019 draft, 55th overall by the Knicks. Sir, welcome to the Shadows Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, the story of Virginia that y'all had, Jim Nantz said was the all-time turnaround title. I think it's one that's perfect, not just for sports fans, because I think sports, a lot of times, so many parallels with real life, but we're going to unpack a little bit of your journey here, but kind of going back to like your childhood. When did you know that basketball was like your go-to?
Yeah. It's tough because I was seasonal. So if it was football season, then I wanted to play in the NFL. And if it was basketball season, I wanted to play in the NBA. So I would say probably around like 8th grade, I got an offer from a Division II school for basketball,
Wow.
University of Indianapolis. And so that's where it was going into freshman year that summer. So I was like, I'm not getting as big as some of these other football players. Like I'm growing a little slower. So I'm just going to focus on basketball once I got that offer. And that's kind of when it turned around for me. So I'd say around 8th grade, I ran track and played football up until then.
What was the recruitment process like? I bet that was crazy with the mail and everything.
Yeah, it was crazy. The mail, honestly, I feel like by the time I got to high school, when I was like a sophomore, junior, they kind of stopped with the letters because they can just call you, Twitter DM, like all these different ways of reaching you were just a little bit more personable and had more like leverage and meaning to it than a letter. I will say every school in Indiana recruited me except for Notre Dame. And I got a letter from Notre Dame the day after I committed to UVA. So that's just kind of how it went. But I mean, I had a bunch of offers, but I was only I knew when schools offered me if I was going to go there or not for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And Virginia was actually the last team to come into the picture.
Really?
Tony, I mean, again, that's not like they knew about me and they were like, nah, he's not good enough. And then came around, like they didn't know who I was, or if they did, like they had offers to other people already that they had to wait for. So growing up, I wanted to go to IU, being from Indiana. Like I wanted to wear the candy stripe pants.
Yeah.
Like that was huge for me. A lot of family that went to IU, being Mr. Basketball and just being from Indiana. Like that was the dream. Didn't work out. Didn't see eye to eye with some people in the within the organization. And I loved Matt Painter at Purdue. I loved Brad Stevens at Butler. But I didn't really like Purdue that much. And, Brad Stevens left and there's a new coach at Butler every year. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm not staying in the state. Where do I want to go? Got some offers from like California, Berkeley, Tennessee, places like that, North Carolina State, which would have made you a little bit more angry already. So
yeah, you wouldn't be doing it at this point.
Yeah, right. And I had looks from, Kansas, North Carolina, actually, but they never offered. So I was a sophomore going into being my junior year in the summer when Virginia came around. And they offered me, and I knew I had a special relationship with Coach Bennett just from over the phone. But when I went on my visit in August or September, I knew I was going to commit. So I went home, waited like a day or two, and then I called him and told him. So
he seems like he'd be fun to play for. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. He's one of the best humans ever. And that's kind of why I was drawn to him, because he just was full of wisdom and, kind of what you would look for in a military leader too, is just like, it's not just on the court, it's off the court too. And one of the best, most ferocious leaders I've been around.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've always been a fan of him. You get recruited with an awesome class. Ty Jerome, Jay Huff, DeAndre Hunter. I mean, key pieces to that national title run that y'all had. You go to Virginia 2016-17 season. Y'all went 23-11 during the regular season, 11-7 in the ACC. You were tied with Duke for fifth. And then y'all got defeated in the tournament by Florida. But what was it like the first time wearing that Virginia jersey, running out there on the court?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'll never forget. We were playing at UNC Greensboro. A lot of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Similarities here.
It seems like y'all started with UNCG, like every year you were there.
Yeah, we played them every year. But I know for a fact that my freshman year, we played there first game of the season, and had like 5 or 7 points. I played like, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 minutes. But it was crazy, man. Like just a total different. That summer, actually, I wanted to, you can ask anybody, me, Ty or Dre, like we talked about transferring after that summer because their practices and the way that they go about like getting ready defensively, like it kills your confidence at first because you're just not ready. And obviously Dre was redshirted my freshman year. DeAndre Hunter was. So that was kind of another thing for him. But like me and Ty and him were like, like I'm getting dunked on in practice. I'm getting destroyed. Like reps are hard to come by because of the fact that we are behind defensively. And offensively, we were ready to go, but still had to learn the offense and how coach wanted us to play and stuff. So it was a tough summer. And then October is the worst. Ask any college basketball athlete that you practice for 30 days straight with no games and like no off days. So like then all the colleges basically try to like kill you while getting you prepared. So October was terrible. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man, this is not it, but we stuck with it. And we're like, this is why we came here. It's because we chose the hard way, chose a unique route that most people don't choose. And we trust Tony. And so obviously it worked out by the time halfway through the freshman season. I started the last like 17 games. Ty started like 12 games that season too. So ended up working out in our favor. But yeah, it was a roller coaster ride to get to that point.
Defense is like y'all staple. Y'all I said y'all are kind of like the San Antonio Spurs of college basketball. Weren't the flashiest team, but you would just grind teams down.
Yeah. I think there's like a misconception that like we play slow, which like obviously in terms of like stats, we do play slow, but like we're just best shot available team. Like my
people get hung
year,
up on the points. The points that y'all allowed.
Yeah, well, it's hard to score 100 points when like the other team is using 30 seconds.
Yeah.
People don't talk about how they play slow against us. That's just because we're good defenders and we make them use the shot clock. And then, like coach gave certain people green lights. So like me and London had a green light freshman year, which was basically you shoot whenever you wanted. Sophomore, junior year, it was me, Ty, Dre. So like we were just best shot available, man. Like our junior year, like we put up over 80 points twice in our last 3 games of the season. The one year we won the championship. So like, I mean, there is a misconception. I think, if you're watching them now, they're struggling. So they're definitely playing slower because like he's trying to figure it out. But at the end of the day, we're just best shot available.
Well, your following season was a big year for the program. First time since 1982 that y'all had reached number 1 in the polls. Y'all actually started, I believe, unranked to start the year and then went up to number 1.
And, because like my first year, we were so talented. Like we had like 14 guys that could start on a Division I team. Like no joke. 12 because there's only 13 scholarships. 12 guys. And we had like 3 transfers. Someone got kicked off the team. Like, so like I get why we were unranked, but that definitely added fuel to the fire because like I'm definitely a guy that likes coming from a place of underdogism,
Well, that year y'all were hot. Unless you played a team with Virginia in the name. West Virginia and Virginia Tech were your only losses during the regular season. And you go to the ACC tournament and you just you lit up Louisville, Clemson, and then we won't talk about the finals, but you lit up North Carolina. You were ACC tournament MVP. going back to where you started, where you said, look, I was thinking about transferring to now a year later, you're ACC tournament MVP. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, perfect example of just trusting the process. Like, I mean, um, I knew when I went there was three things I wanted to accomplish. That was to win a national championship, get my number retired, and get drafted. And I knew, like, if we won the national championship or I got my number retired or whatever, then more than likely the umbrella goals were going to happen, which was ACC championship, like all ACC, like number one seed, stuff like that. Like that was going to happen if those two of those three goals were accomplished. And so when we won the ACC, it again affirmed why we went there. It was just to play basketball the right way and show the country and the world that like we were a blue blood program. And so when we beat North Carolina, I think that was, they had like Joel Berry in them.
Barry. Yeah.
And they were a good team. And we definitely, that year, that's actually the game DeAndre broke his wrist, which is why he missed the first round game. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, we all know how this, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people know how the story goes. So I wouldn't change anything for the world, but definitely having him would have made a huge difference in that tournament.
You said something that I want to bring up real quick. When is Virginia going to retire your jersey?
Yeah, so they're number 2 public school in the country, so they won't do it until I graduate.
Gotcha.
So they're prestigious that way, which I have mixed feelings about. I do want to. I mean, I wanted to go back and get my degree regardless, but now there's more of like a pressing, like, okay, I need to go do that. So do this. So I don't get to take my time like I wanted, but that's okay. I tried to graduate in 3 years, but it turned out to just be a little too much on my plate. And when we lost to UMBC, I really wanted to focus on like getting better and redeeming ourselves. So after my second year, I was like, okay, this year I'm going to take a step back. So I can graduate in like a semester and a half probably. So
get that jersey retired.
It's not a ton of work. So this summer, hopefully I'll be able to knock out a few classes.
Yeah. All right. Well, now's the part of the story that I know you're just absolutely thrilled to talk about. Selection Sunday. Be honest with me. When you saw Selection Sunday, were you not looking like Kansas State or Creighton? Who do we want to play second round?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if we were the 16th seed, we would probably be looking at, okay, if we get this win, who we playing next? So
that's what I do when I see the brackets come out.
Yeah. Anyone who plays college basketball, like it's a catch-22. So number one, like we definitely are like, okay, who's in our region? Like who do we have to get by to get where we want to go? But then the other side of it is Tony Bennett's the coach, and he's not going to let us just overlook somebody. So I think there's another misconception. Like when we went into the game, we weren't respecting them. Like that's not allowed.
Right.
Like it's the only way to get kicked off the team, really, Virginia, is to disrespect the manager. Like he's that humble. And so we weren't going to overlook UMBC. I actually have a buddy who I played AU with that went to Vermont, Josh Spidell, and I was watching the game where UMBC beat them in their conference tournament because I wanted to see him make it to the tournament. He had been in a car accident in high school, couldn't play anymore, but they honored his scholarship. Like it would have been such a cool story. But they beat him, and the Jaquan Lyle kid who ended up playing for the Jazz for a little bit, like he killed that game, hit a game winner. Like so, we knew they were legit. I was watching the game, but to answer your question, like. It didn't matter if we were playing, Kentucky in the first round or Kansas in the first round. We were going to be like, okay, if we get this win, who do we play? Like, what's how's it going to shake out within the region? So
it was crazy because I was at my work, different time zones. I was in Germany, and one of the guys that I work with, we'd filled our brackets out, and I think I had y'all losing. North Carolina was going to beat you in my tournament somewhere, but. I remember I'd filled it out and I was like, I got Virginia going pretty far. And the guy talking to me was like, has a number 16 ever beat a number 1? And I remember telling him, I was like, it hasn't happened. It's been close, like Princeton, Georgetown. Purdue almost lost to one a couple years after that. But I was like, it hadn't happened. And we came in the next day and we were like, wow, we just spoke that into existence. But to let everyone know, on March 16th in Charlotte, it was a night game, but UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, came in, and it was one of those games where it was 21-21 at halftime. It's kind of like all right, they're hanging with us. What was the
That's happened before, right?
Yeah, it's happened before. But then second half, y'all allowed 53 points average that year. They got 53 points in the second half. When did you know, like, oh God, this is not going to end well?
I mean, full transparency. I'd say the first media timeout in the first half, I felt like in my gut, like, oh shit, like this is, like you just
know.
It was like it's like when you shoot to not miss as opposed to shooting to make it.
Yeah.
Like, because you're scared of airballing or missing bad or whatever. Like I felt like after that first time out, we were playing to not be that team that got upset as opposed to just playing as ourselves and winning.
Yeah.
And you could look around and everyone's eyes were big, like, oh, don't let this be us. Don't let this be us. So we were definitely shaken and not as mentally tough as we needed to be just for that one game. And like you said, 31-2, we were as mentally tough as it came. Number one all year, like won the ACC outright and the tournament, like as mentally tough as they come. And, just sometimes there's a little crack in the shield, and UMBC was the perfect size to fit that crack and break the entire armor plate. So, I mean, like, it was tough. At halftime, we were fine. I don't remember the halftime of that game as much as I do the following year, but like, I don't remember it being like somber or like, oh shit, but that's because we kept it all inside. You could kind of look at somebody and see it, but at the end of the day, like, we were still trying to win. It was just, like I said, that kind of metaphor of like shooting to not miss as opposed to shooting to win.
Yeah. When the final horn sounded, you stood at half court, kind of had your hands on your knees. What was it like post game? Like, not just the locker room, but like going back to Charlottesville, and then what was that about your cell phone? I saw something like you had something you kept on your cell phone about that game.
Yeah. So, I like, full transparency, I was ready to cry with like 6 minutes left in the game because I mean, they beat the crap out of us. It wasn't like they hit a buzzer beater. If they hit a buzzer beater, I'd probably be more okay with it because it's like, okay, March Madness, like, it's the magic.
20 points.
And it still was magical for them, but it was 75-55, I think. Like, I guess I beat the crap out of us. And so, like, literally holding back tears the whole last 6 to 8 minutes of the game, just trying to play my ass off. So thankful he didn't take me out. I don't like the idea of being like taken out of a game just because we're down. Like, I want to fight to the end. And so I got to do that, which I was thankful for. And when the horn sounded, I just kind of wanted to take a second to kind of process and like tell myself, like, it's going to be okay, but this shit sucks, like, at the same time. Because I like to feel what is going, like, feel the emotion of what just happened. And so just a lot of hurt and stuff. And when we got back to the locker room, I don't even remember anything that Coach Bennett said. Like, I was so out of it. I remember as soon as we broke it down, I went and said sorry to all the seniors. And then I went in the shower with my jersey on and stuff. I just sat there for like 25 minutes. The academic advisor, who I'm super close with, came in there, gave me a hug. Everyone was crying. I mean, it was just, we made history, the wrong way. You don't want to do that. And obviously nobody wants to do that. And so after I got done crying for like 25 minutes to myself, like, Coach Bennett came in there and he grabbed me and Ty Jerome to go on the podium because he wanted to spare the seniors, Isaiah Wilkins and Devin Hall, who both playing professionally. Actually, Isaiah Wilkins is a coach at Virginia now. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I want to spare them. Like, you guys are going to be the face of this program moving forward. You're our leaders. Like, let's prepare and like get a lesson in this. Like, go up there, face the world after
face it head on.
Yeah, head on. And so I was super thankful for that. And we went up there and answered some of the dumbest questions of all time. And we just stood up there, graceful like a warrior, and just took it, which I think definitely helped in the long run of how I now combat like adversity. And so we go up there, and one of the guys who's literally, he's a UVA beat writer. So he knows that, he's known us for 2 years, and he writes
Yeah.
about us and asks us questions after every single game. And he says, guys, did you know that you were the first team to lose to a 16 seed? And I'm like, dude, like, and Ty just stares at him, and I forget. And he just, I can't remember verbatim what he says. I'm pretty sure he was just like, yes. And then just like,
I think he's like, yeah, we're aware of it.
Yeah, we're like, come on, like you should. I mean, the gut punch that was, just knowing that, okay, we're getting ready to face our own school is mad at us also.
Mm-hmm.
That was a gut punch. But did a great job. It was hard to answer all those questions, but when we left, Coach Bennett said some really powerful stuff on the podium afterwards. If anybody wants to look that up, they should definitely do that on YouTube. Like what he said when we left was so powerful. And just again reaffirmed, like, I chose the right school. I chose the right coach.
Gracious in defeat with that press conference.
Right. Oh, it was unbelievable. And then the way that we all came back from it after what happened later that night, like we went to back to the hotel, and they had the police escort us to our rooms because there was death threats of like blowing up the hotel and stuff like that, because all these, guys that gambled on the game, which, I've gambled before. It's frustrating, but like, that's a perfect example of why the NIL now was so important, is because like people view us as the number on our jersey. Sometimes they lose sight of like, we are you when you were 18, just good at a sport. So like that was tough, and then super eye opening and almost like dream, like you couldn't believe, like we went through it was like a movie, like we went through the back kitchen, like,
and you're like 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, I was 19 at the time, like crazy.
Jeez. So you go into your junior season. I'm sure y'all wanted UMBC like first game of the year, but you go into that season and y'all go 18 or 28-2 regular season. Selection Sunday, you find out you're number 1 seed. You go in, and this is a part of the story I think that goes overlooked. A lot of people look at the UMBC game and they look at the Texas Tech or the Auburn game, but y'all play Gardner-Webb. Once again, you're number 1 seed.
Right.
You're a 16. The first half, y'all are down 30-16. What was going through your mind?
This right here, just like laughing it off. That's what we did. And excuse me. We were at halftime, and I'm just looking around. There was no doubt or fear this time as there was last time.
Even though y'all were down at halftime.
I had down like
36,
worse
30.
than like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just look around. We're like, all right, guys, let's go. We're not gonna let this happen again. Like, we know what we're here. We know what we're built for. And we know what we've been, preparing for all season. And so we go out there, and DeAndre plays phenomenal in the second half, and Ty plays pretty well too. And so ended up getting that win. But that was, the whole game. I never felt what I felt in the UMBC game. And that is a perfect example of like using a loss or a failure like as a lesson. And I never felt like we were going to lose. We were down. I mean, it was a home game for them because, number one, like once we had lost the 16 seed, like everyone was like, oh, it's going to happen again. So they started rooting for them. And it was, Gardner-Webb wasn't far from there either. So it was just,
we had Oklahoma fans there too that were pulling against y'all. And yeah. Well, after that, y'all defeat Oklahoma second round. You beat Oregon, kind of a hard fought game, the regional semis, but then that regional final, and I'm telling you folks, if you remotely like college basketball, you need to look this game up on YouTube. They'll probably take it down now that I said that, but you need to look it up on there. It's an absolute shootout. Carson Edwards was ridiculous in that game. 42 points, 10 threes. He almost broke Jeff Fryer, who was a previous guest here on the Shadows, almost broke his record. But the way just these final 3 games of the season, the way that they ended, 5.9 seconds left, you're trailing 70-67. Jerome gets fouled, hits first free throw. The second one gets it's missed and it's tipped. And I think Harris runs down court, grabs it, launches it. Y'all hit a jumper with about, well, actually his time expired to go into to go into overtime. And then you hit key free throws late in that game. Y'all, you basically overcome that Purdue game. What do you remember about that one?
Number one, to piggyback off of what you said, that is one of the best college basketball games of all time.
Yes.
I've watched it since, trying to be like bipartisan basically. And I'm like, dude, that game was unbelievable.
Even the hype before it starts.
Yeah, dude, you want to talk about a home game? That was in Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
I'm from Indiana, so that's 90 minutes from Indianapolis, from where I'm from.
You already mentioned you love Purdue.
Decked out in black, all black and gold. And then there's one section behind our bench that is orange. I mean, it was the craziest atmosphere ever, aside from Final Four. Like, unbelievable, so loud. They come out. I'm guarding Ryan Klein, who's my buddy. We played at AU together too, from my city. And he hits a 3 to start the game. I mean, loudest I've ever heard an arena. So loud. Just came out, hit the first 3 right in my face. And then, like you said, Carson Edwards, unbelievable. After that game, Tony Bennett was like, Coach was like, that was the best performance I've ever seen in college basketball. Like,
his tournament run that year.
If you watch the replay, like, it wasn't bad defense. He had maybe 1 or 2 open layups. Other than that, it was all contested.
I think his last 3, you were all in his face, and he just
oh my God, just drains them. And we're good friends. All of us are good friends with Carson now. Like, we still talk about it. Like, it was unbelievable performance. A lot had to go right for us. They missed a free throw actually, which would have been 71-67.
Yep.
Which would have been a whole another ball game. We would have had to hit a 3. But yeah, Mamadi tips it out after Ty misses it. Kihei Clark runs, our little freshman. He's like 5'7", sprints as fast as I've ever seen somebody. Because I was ahead of him running for the ball, and he just zoom right by me. I'm like, okay. So he gets it. I'm a junior. Like you said, all these accolades, Ty's a junior, all these accolades, been there, done that. We're screaming like, give me the ball. Because we think he's just going to like throw up a half-court shot, try to be a hero. And it's like, no. We've earned this. Give me the
Beautiful
ball. I'm
pass.
screaming at him.
Yeah.
And he just throws a tightrope of a pass to Mamadi, catches it high, keeps it high, floater from like 12 feet at the buzzer. Full transparency, I thought we won on that. So I can tell you what my situational awareness was at the time. But yeah, then we ended up winning in overtime. It was an unbelievable game.
So go back and watch that game. And then the drama doesn't stop. They go to the Final Four in Minneapolis, and in front of 72,000 people. Like I said, this is where you would just, get a key to the city if you were to come down here. I'm about an hour away from Auburn campus. So to let you know, I was at the gym this morning I was getting ready for this interview. I got a little One Shining Moment on, and I'm like, what? Let me watch this Auburn game. And I'm on the treadmill with the Auburn Virginia game up. And then I realized where I'm at, talk about situational awareness. And I look around, I see all these Auburn Tigers sweaters near me. I switched over to A&M or to the Texas Tech game. But yeah,
right.
Once again, 6.5 seconds left, 61-57 Auburn. You hit a ridiculous 3, make it 61-60. And then Clark for Auburn gets fouled, hits first free throw, misses the second once again.
Yeah.
And then they kept fouling y'all. It seemed like they kept fouling y'all down court, killing any sort of momentum whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then the shot, I mean, you get fouled on a 3, pretty much with no time left. Doughty fouls you. Really controversial call from a bunch of. I remember watching it in Germany. He left his feet, bumped you, and then landed. So I mean, he definitely impeded the way he was shooting. But going to the free throw line, this is something that I used to dream of in my driveway. Pretty much you're hitting game-winning free throws in the Final Four. You're in front of 72,000 people. And I was showing this to my wife. I'm like, look at this. it looked like you had zero fear on your face. You just walked up there and you sank the first two, tied it up. They call timeout, try to ice you, I guess. You come up there, you drilled the third one. What was going through your mind during that process?
Yeah, so we had run that out of bounds play. I mean, every game for the entire year. So
we've where you came off the screen and Jerome hit you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like three different options. Like the first one's the alley-oop. That wasn't there. Second one is me. And then third one's just give the ball to DeAndre and, then we would run an offense normally. But in that situation, he would just catch and shoot. Dre said he was on top of me, the Samir Dowdy. He was on top of me. And so normally I would curl around DeAndre. But instead, I just walked up and DeAndre just stepped because normally they would be behind, but he was in front. He just stepped. And so I just sprinted to the corner. And Ty hit me, had the faith. I probably a little biased. I think if he didn't hit my hip, I would have made it. Mm-hmm. It like took a little bit off. But again, I mean, controversial or not, what I say is gonna ring differently in people's ears, but I think it was a foul. And I'm normally a guy, I'll tell you straight up, like during a game, I'm like, yeah, ref, he did not foul me. But like, I like saying that just so I'm being honest. But, was in my space, whatever, they call foul. I knew right away they call foul. And I put my jersey like over my mouth and face just like to reset real quick, like get ready for this. And you mentioned something like you dreamed of this in your driveway, right? Well, that's exactly what I started thinking about. I was like, dude, like,
yeah.
Instead of like running away from the fear. I mean, this is so my full transparency. My dad's a Marine, uncle's Marine, aunt's a JAG officer, grandparents Army, like big military family. And it's just a perfect example of what you guys do is like, you guys are scared to death over there, like, but you can't show it. Mm-hmm. You gotta have a warrior mentality. You gotta step up to the plate and just be ready to do your duty. That's exactly what I did, because in the interview afterwards, you said I didn't look nervous. Like in the interviews, I was like, dude, I was fucking terrified, but like, what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, it was a good scared. Like, okay, like I put all these things in my head. Like, all right, there's 80,000 people here, 75,000 people, whatever it was. 5 million watching on TV. Like your whole life was built for this moment. Like I put all these ideas in my head, and I was like. Why not me? Like you said, I'm in the driveway. I do this all the time. Yeah. And it's like, you can be a legend for this. Like, just do it. And so first one felt great. Second one felt a little weird. Like it was a little bit to the left. Then went in, then they called timeout. And my teammates were like trying to give me high fives. I'm like, dude, get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you right now. So coach is like talking to the entire team. Like, okay, if he makes this or misses this, this is what we're doing. So we had all these game plans. I don't have a clue what's going on. I'm over just drinking a water, sipping. I have like a towel or something, just like staying in the zone. And so if you see, after I knocked the third one down to win it, there's 0.8 left, I think. And if you look at me after I shoot, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like looking for someone to guard. Should I like play safety?
You're probably supposed to be the one who was on the inbounder, because there's no one on the inbounder.
Probably. Yeah. And I had no clue. Obviously they didn't have time to really do anything, but it was just a funny moment of like, I was so locked in, I didn't care about what happened next. So we got lucky a little bit that way.
Well, then y'all advanced to the national championship game. Is once again, I think it's a very underrated national championship game. One of the best ones. I think y'all were right there with like that Villanova, North Carolina championship. I think if that one didn't happen, a lot more would be talking about this one, but it was a great game.
But
68-65, 12.9 seconds left. Once again, drama. Hunter hits three. And then 85-77 in overtime. You are the most outstanding player of the Final Four. You had 24 points in that game. Jim Nantz called it the all-time turnaround title. Bill Raftery said there's no story that has ever been told like this in college basketball. When all the confetti and everything is falling down and y'all are running around the court. In fact, I think one shining moment, it captures like 3 or 4 scenes of you running around celebrating. What did that feel like, knowing y'all went from like the lowest of lows in college basketball to now you are national champs?
Oh man, that it was a lot of emotions at once. I only had 2 college games my entire college career where nobody was at, like none of my family or friends were at.
Mhm.
2 the entire time. So you can imagine how many people were there in Minneapolis. Like we're talking like 50, 75 people were
Oh
there.
yeah.
So, we're just after every game, they're like, dude, like this is unreal. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do it. And like every game, like those last 2 games, Final Four and
The
national
Purdue game.
championship,
Yeah.
we blew and that we blew a 10-point lead, and we're ended up being down 8 or more with less than like 3 minutes left,
Yeah.
and had to fight our way back. But we just kept believing. Coach Bennett made us watch a TED Talk, not made us, but like set up us to watch a TED Talk called The Storyteller, and he tells this quote that like Coach Bennett's now famous for like saying or like bringing to the public eye, and it's that if you use adversity the right way, then it'll buy you a ticket to a place you couldn't have gone any other way. So basically, like without losing to UMBC, there's no way we can win a national championship. Like it sparked something in us. We played for each other. Like there was never once a selfish moment the entire year, and it really helped us like truly believe that redemption was possible. And so when we did it, man, I always envisioned like being able to have the ball and just launch it into the stand. But DeAndre got that honor, which is fine. I got to do the Michael Jordan like jump up,
Yep.
Waving my hands. We won. The whole team's running out there. Like it was just pure bliss, man. A lot of emotion. I still think about it a lot to this day, just like how crazy that whole thing was.
What would you title the 30 for 30 that they're eventually going to do, or a movie or something based off this team? What would you title that?
Man. Well, they did the ACC or ESPN did like a hour long. It's called.
It was good.
And that was good, but it's just not enough information as to everything that went down. So like that was cool. That's a really good name. Redemption is obviously good. I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to text you actually when I finally think of it. But I don't know, I think a one-worder is the best, but just like a powerful word that's just like makes you think like, wow, like that shit happened, So
it's one of the, and I'm a huge college basketball fan. I got a friend of mine who we could pretty much tell you anything that's happened in college basketball, and I'll tell you, it's one of the best stories. People talk about the '83 NC State team, what they went through in the tournament. This Virginia squad, one of the best stories ever told in college. I'd say sports, not just college basketball, but sports in general. Jim Nantz actually talked about it wrapping up the game. He said, a team in the NFL, they're 4th in their division. They win the division the next year. I mean, big deal. You beat out 4 other teams, but y'all went from, in a 68 team field, getting knocked out, like you said, the wrong part of history, losing to UMBC. And I, from what I was hearing, they were saying during the games, Coach Bennett was saying, embrace that story, embrace that, make it part of your journey. And this story and overall exemplifies, like the title of this podcast, The Shadows. You embrace those moments. They become part of who you are, and you ultimately succeed in the end. So, thank you for being on here. What final comments do you have for our listeners?
Yeah, sure. No, man, this is awesome what you're doing. Like I said, military runs deep in my family. Honest to God, I would love to. I wanted to be a soldier my entire life, but I'm just not brave enough as you guys. So that's
not brave enough. You stood in front of 72,000 people and hit free throws.
That's different. That is not brave compared. That's not brave compared to you guys. So but I appreciate you for reaching out, thinking that I was worthy of being on here. So this is awesome what you're doing. We should talk more, because I have my own foundation, and we kind of help out with any type of issue. But I definitely, if you have nonprofit organizations or something, I'd love to make a donation. Like this is awesome what you're doing. So thanks for having me on.
Too easy, folks. That'll conclude this episode of the Shadows Podcast.